Welcome to Poirot Stories. I'm Preston Flynn. Settle in with a cup of tea, dear listeners, as we embark on a leisurely journey into the world of mystery. Today, we're diving into a brand new tale inspired by the Queen of Crime herself, Agatha Christie. This is Blood at the Zytglogge Gatehouse, a Hercule Poirot murder mystery. Picture the cobbled streets of 1920s Bern, Switzerland, where the ancient clock tower stands sentinel, its mechanisms ticking away secrets of the past. We'll unfold this story slowly, chapter by chapter, to let the suspense build like the winding of a fine Swiss watch. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a deduction. And tell me in the comments where you're listening from, perhaps from the snowy Alps or a cozy London flat. Now, let's begin. Chapter 1. Introduction and Setup. The autumn of 1925 draped Bern, Switzerland, in a veil of mist that curled from the Aare River, weaving through the old city's medieval arcades like a thief in the night. Cobbled streets echoed with the clatter of horse-drawn carriages, and gas lamps cast golden halos in the fog. At the heart of this ancient quarter stood the Zytglogge, a 13th-century clock tower that had once guarded Bern's western gate. Its sandstone facade, weathered by centuries, rose 54 meters, crowned by a pitched roof and a gilded weather vane that creaked in the alpine breeze. The tower's astronomical clock, a marvel of 15th-century craftsmanship, mapped the heavens with a stereographic projection, sun, moon, and stars dancing in mechanical harmony. The great bell, cast in 1405, tolled with solemn precision, while the figure of Kronos, known to locals as Hans von Thun, struck the hours with a hammer, his gilded form glinting above the Kramgasse's bustling arcade. The Zytglogge was more than a timekeeper. It was a labyrinth of history. Its upper chambers, once used as guardposts, archives, and even a women's prison in the 17th century, the Pfaffendirnen, as locals whispered, now housed relics of horology. The mechanism room, a maze of gears, edifice overlooking the Aare, its chandeliers sparkling like the stars on the Zytglogge's dial. Poirot's patent leather shoes gleamed as he adjusted his bow tie, his green eyes scanning the lobby with habitual curiosity. The invitation had come from Dr. Elias Vogel, a renowned horologist and custodian of Bern's historical treasures. Vogel, a wiry man in his late 50s, with a perpetual squint from decades of peering at intricate mechanisms, had read of Poirot's triumphs in the mysterious affair at Styles. His letter, penned in precise script, read, "Monsieur Poirot, your mind is a mechanism finer than any clock. Join us at the Zytglogge for a symposium on medieval timepieces. The tower holds mysteries even I cannot fathom. Perhaps you will." Intrigued by the prospect of intellectual stimulation, Poirot accepted. The symposium, hosted in the tower's refurbished upper rooms, once musty archives, now polished halls with oak paneling, was an exclusive affair. Vogel had gathered a small but eclectic group, each with a stake in the world of horology or the tower's legacy. Helena Vogel, the doctor's wife, was a former Viennese opera singer, her beauty softened by time, but her ambition undimmed. At 45, her auburn hair was pinned elegantly, though her tight smiles hinted at discontent. Karl Brunner, Vogel's business partner in a prestigious watchmaking firm, was a broad-shouldered man with a ruddy complexion and a temper as short as a fuse. His ledger, Poirot noted, was as thick with grievances as with figures. Sophie Leclerc, Vogel's niece from Geneva, was a vivacious woman in her mid-20s, her dark curls and quick wit belying her ambition to study art in Paris. Professor Anton Meyer, a rival academic from Zurich, carried himself with the arrogance of a man who believed his intellect unrivaled. His sharp tongue and pinched features suggested envy of Vogel's prominence. Fritz Lang, the tower's caretaker, was a stoic Bernese local, his calloused hands and weathered face speaking of years tending the Zytglogge's mechanisms. He harbored a quiet resentment toward the modern world, encroaching on his domain. Lastly, Madame Yvette Duval, solicitous, her eyes darting to Brunner across the table. Brunner, meanwhile, argued with Meyer over patent rights, his voice rising until Vogel intervened with a laugh. Sophie whispered to Poirot about her uncle's generosity, though her glance at Helena was sharp. Lang lingered in the shadows, polishing brass fittings with a cloth, his expression unreadable. Madame Duval, sipping her wine, murmured to Sophie about Paris, her words laced with secrets that made the young woman blush. As the great bell struck 9, its resonance vibrating through the stone, Vogel announced a private tour of the clock mechanism for his inner circle. "The heart of the Zytglogge," he said, eyes alight, "where time itself is forged." The group ascended the narrow stair tower, its steps worn smooth by centuries. The mechanism room, high above the city, was a symphony of ticking gears and swinging pendulums. The astronomical clock's dial, with its gilded sun and moon, glowed faintly, while the great bell loomed overhead, its bronze surface etched with Latin inscriptions. Vogel, clutching the iron key, unlocked the heavy door, revealing the intricate machinery within. "Magnificent," Poirot murmured, his gloved finger tracing the astrolabe's edge. "The stars, the planets, all in perfect order, no?" Vogel beamed, explaining the cannonball pendulum's role in maintaining accuracy. "A single adjustment," he said, "and time bends to our will." The group marveled, though tensions simmered. Brunner muttered about production costs, Meyer scoffed at Vogel's explanations, and Helena's smile faltered as her husband ignored her. Lang, adjusting a gear, shot Vogel a dark look, unnoticed by most, but not by Poirot. As the tour concluded, Vogel lingered behind. "A minor adjustment to the pendulum," he said, waving the others on. "I shall join you shortly at the hotel for nightcaps." The party descended, leaving Vogel alone in the mechanism room. They crossed the foggy Krummgasse to the Bellevue Palace, where laughter and brandy awaited. But as the Zytglogge's chimes echoed, green eyes, sharp as cut emeralds, scanned the morning's Berner Zeitung, though his mind lingered on the previous evening's gala. The symposium guests, Helena Vogel, Karl Brunner, Sophie Leclerc, Professor Anton Meyer, Fritz Lang, and Madame Yvette Duval, had parted after the clocktower tour, their alibis as varied as their motives. Poirot's mustache twitched as he recalled Vogel's absence at the hotel's nightcap session. "A man does not vanish into the fog without reason," he murmured to himself. His reverie was shattered by a commotion at the hotel's entrance. Helena Vogel burst into the dining room, her auburn hair disheveled beneath a hastily pinned hat, her face pale as the mist outside. "Monsieur Poirot!" she gasped, clutching a crumpled note. "It's Elias! He's dead!" The room fell silent, forks pausing mid-air as other guests turned. Poirot rose, his compact frame radiating calm authority. "Madame Vogel, composez-vous. Tell me all." "It's not a telegram," she stammered, holding out the note. "It was delivered to my room this morning from the tower. They say it's suicide. But Elias would never." Her voice broke, and she sank into a chair, her silk dress crumpling. Poirot unfolded the note, written in a hurried scrawl. "Dr. Vogel found dead in Zytglogge mechanism room. Authorities summoned. Come at once." It was signed by Fritz Lang, the tower's caretaker. Poirot's eyes narrowed. "We go to the tower, madame. The truth, it does not wait." Word of the tragedy spread like wildfire through the symposium group, who gathered in the hotel lobby, their faces a mix of shock and suspicion. Karl Brunner, his ruddy cheeks flushed, muttered about business losses. Sophie Leclerc, clutching her locket, wept silently. Professor Meyer adjusted his spectacles, his expression unreadable, while Madame Duval's enigmatic gaze flickered with something like fear. Lang, summoned from the tower, stood apart, his calloused hands clenched. Inspector Lucas Weber, a sturdy Swiss policeman with a walrus mustache and a no-nonsense air, met them at the space was a labyrinth of gears, pendulums, and levers, the great bell looming overhead like a silent judge. Narrow slits in the walls admitted slivers of light. But there were no proper windows, no other exits save the locked door. In the center, sprawled across the wooden floorboards, lay Dr. Elias Vogel. A dagger, its hilt ornate with Swiss motifs, protruded from his chest, blood pooling around the base of the astronomical clock's frame. His spectacles lay shattered beside him, his face frozen in a grimace of surprise. Helena stifled a cry, turning away. Sophie clutched Poirot's arm, her eyes wide. The others stood in stunned silence, save for Brunner, who muttered, "Foolish man." Weber knelt beside the body, his gloved hands careful. Suicide, likely. The daggers from his own collection. 16th century. He showed it at the gala. Door locked from inside, key on his chain. He pointed to the iron key, still looped around Vogel's waist. Poirot, his patent leather shoes silent on the floor, crouched beside the body, his eyes darting over details. "Non, Inspector," he said softly. "Observe, the wound is precise, deep. Yet there are no defensive marks on his hands. The blood, it pools unevenly, as if he fell after the blow. And the pendulum," he gestured to the cannonball pendulum, swinging erratically. "It is misaligned, as if disturbed." Weber frowned. "Disturbed? It's a clock, monsieur. They tick." Poirot's mustache twitched. "They tick with precision, Inspector. This irregularity, it speaks of interference." As officers photographed the scene, a constable handed Weber a folded paper found in Vogel's pocket. It read, in Vogel's meticulous hand, "Forgive me, but the shadows of the past demand payment." The words hung heavy, cryptic yet suggestive. "Suicide note?" Weber mused. "Or a clue," Poirot countered. "The shadows of the past, what do they conceal?" The other entry. "An impossible crime, mes amis. Yet murder it is." Weber bristled. "Impossible. The evidence points to suicide." Poirot's eyes gleamed. "Evidence, Inspector, is like the clock's gears. It must align perfectly, or it tells the wrong time." As the group dispersed, Helena whispered to Poirot. "Elias was troubled. Business disputes, secrets. But he loved life." Her eyes searched his, desperate for answers. Outside, the Zytglogge's chimes struck 8, their echo distorted by the fog. Poirot stood beneath the arch, gazing up at the tower's spire. "The truth," he murmured, "it hides in the rhythm of time itself." Chapter 3. Investigation begins. The fog over Bern hung heavy on October 17, 1925, cloaking the Zytglogge Tower in a veil that seemed to whisper secrets with every gust. The tower's great bell tolled 9, its echo reverberating through the Kramgasse, where curious onlookers lingered despite the police cordon. Inside the tower's archive room, a low-ceilinged chamber lined with dusty tomes on horology and faded maps of medieval Bern, Hercule Poirot stood poised, his patent leather shoes gleaming against the worn oak floor. The air was thick with the scent of old paper and wax, and gas lamps cast flickering shadows across the faces of the symposium guests, now suspects in a murder most perplexing. Inspector Lucas Weber, his walrus mustache bristling, addressed Poirot with a mix of respect and skepticism. "Monsieur Poirot, your reputation is formidable, but this is a Swiss matter. Still, if you wish to observe, I permit it, provided you respect our methods." Poirot inclined his head, his green eyes glinting. "Naturellement, Inspector. The little grey cells, they offer assistance, not interference. Let us proceed with order and method." Weber grunted, spreading a map of the Zytglogge on the table. "The mechanism room is a fortress, one door locked from within. No windows save narrow slits, too small for a man. The stair tower of divorce. But suicide? No, Monsieur Poirot. He loved his work too much." Her eyes, red-rimmed, darted to the door, as if expecting her husband's ghost. Poirot noted her tension. "Madame, did you see your husband after the tour last night?" "No," she said quickly. "I had a headache. Retired to my suite at the Bellevue Palace by 9:30. Alone." Next came Karl Brunner, the watchmaker, his broad shoulders filling the doorway. His ruddy face was set in a scowl, his hands fidgeting with a pocket watch. "Vogel owed me thousands," he growled. "A botched deal with a Geneva investor cost us a fortune. I argued with him yesterday, yes. But murder? I'd rather drag him to court than a grave." "And your whereabouts after the tour?" Poirot asked. "Met a supplier at the Baronplatz Tavern," Brunner said. "Drank until midnight, then back to the hotel. Ask the barkeep." Sophie Leclerc, Vogel's niece, entered with a nervous smile, her dark curls framing a pale face. She wore the locket her uncle had given her, its inscription, "To my dear niece, your future is timed," visible as she toyed with it. "Uncle Elias promised funds for my art studies in Paris," she said. "Aunt Helena disapproved, said it was frivolous. We argued briefly before the tour, but it was nothing serious. After, I walked with Madame Duval along the Ara until 10, then went to my room." Poirot's eyes narrowed. "A brief argument, mademoiselle? Yet your uncle is dead. What was its nature?" Sophie flushed. He said I must prove my talent first. I was upset, but I loved him." Professor Anton Meyer followed, his thin frame rigid with indignation. "Vogel was a thief," he spat, adjusting his spectacles. "He stole my research on the Zytglogge's astrolabe alignments for his symposium speech. I confronted him last week. Professional sabotage, that's what it was. But I didn't kill him. I was in my room, drafting my lecture until dawn." Fritz Lang, the caretaker, dismissed her, his mind cataloguing discrepancies. Motives abounded. Helena's strained marriage and potential inheritance, Brunner's financial grudge, Sophie's thwarted ambitions, Meyer's professional jealousy, Lang's resentment, Duval's mysterious past, perhaps blackmail. Each alibi was plausible, yet none ironclad. Returning to the mechanism room with Weber, Poirot examined the scene anew. The blood pool had dried, staining the floorboards near the astronomical clock's base. The dagger, now bagged as evidence, bore only Vogel's fingerprints per Weber's report. The loose gear Poirot had noted earlier lay near the astrolabe, its oil smudge curious, different from the machine's lubricant, suggesting external tampering. The faint footprint near the great bell, partially obscured by dust, was from a man's boot, size 10, not Vogel's smaller shoes. The blonde hair, caught in a splinter, remained a puzzle. Vogel's hair was dark, Helena's auburn, Sophie's brunette. Duval was blonde, but so were countless others in Bern. Poirot knelt by the pendulum, still swinging irregularly. "Inspector, this pendulum, it was adjusted last night. The clock struck unevenly at midnight. I heard it from the hotel. Someone was here, after Vogel." Weber scratched his chin. "The stair tower was guarded. No one passed after the tour." "Then we look beyond the obvious," Poirot said. He tapped the astrolabe's frame, noticing a faint creak. "The tower. It has secrets older than this crime." He climbed to the bell chamber, where the great bell hung, its Latin inscriptions barely legible in the dim light. A scuff mark on the ladder suggested recent use. From the chamber, a narrow ledge led to the spire's base, but it was sealed, inaccessible without tools. Or was it? Poirot's eyes gleamed. The impossible, it is merely the improbable in disguise. Back in the archive room, Weber shared a new finding. A torn scrap of paper in Vogel's desk, hidden in a book on medieval clocks. It read, "The moon's shadow hides the truth." Another clue or another shadow? Poirot paced. His hand of the tower's mechanisms surrounded him. Inspector Lucas Weber, his patience fraying, had granted Poirot leeway to probe deeper, though he muttered about foreign meddling. The murder of Dr. Elias Vogel, stabbed in the locked mechanism room, with the key on his person and a cryptic note about shadows of the past, Stubborndid demanded answers, and Poirot's methodical mind was determined to find them. The suspects, Helena Vogel, Karl Brunner, Sophie Leclerc, Professor Anton Meyer, Fritz Lang, and Madame Yvette Duval remained under scrutiny, their alibis as delicate as the Zytglogge's gears. Poirot's interviews had revealed motives: Helena's strained marriage, Brunner's financial disputes, Sophie's inheritance hopes, Meyer's academic rivalry, Lang's resentment, and Duval's shadowy history. But motives alone did not solve the impossible crime. "The truth," Poirot murmured. "It lies in the details, like the tick of a clock." He began by revisiting Vogel's estate, a stately townhouse a short walk from the tower, its windows overlooking the Ara River. With Weber's permission, Poirot searched Vogel's study, a cluttered room of oak shelves and horological instruments. Among papers on the desk, he found a letter from Brunner, its ink smudged with anger. "Pay what you owe, Elias, or I'll ruin you." Another, from Meyer, accused Vogel of plagiarizing astrolabe research, ending with a veiled threat: "You'll regret crossing me." Poirot tucked both away, noting their convenient discovery. "Red herrings, perhaps," he mused, "or bait set by a clever hand." Next, he questioned Sophie Leclerc more closely at the hotel. She fidgeted with her locket, its inscription glinting. "My walk with Madame Duval," she admitted, "ended earlier than I said, perhaps 9:30. I was upset after arguing with Uncle Elias. I wandered alone by the river before returning." Her eyes avoided Poirot's, and he noted the crack in her alibi. Madame Duval, when pressed, confirmed the timeline. "We parted early," she said, her pearl necklace gleaming. "I returned to my room to read. Elias's death. It stirs old memories."
"In Paris," she admitted. "A forged painting, sold during the war. He demanded payment for silence." Her motive grew sharper, but her alibi held, for now. Back at the Zytglogge, Poirot re-examined the mechanism room. The loose gear, smeared with foreign oil, suggested tampering. He tested the astrolabe's frame, discovering a hidden panel behind it, leading to a narrow crawl space toward the attic. Dust on the panel's edges was disturbed, but the attic door was sealed with rusted bolts, untouched for years, or so it seemed. "A possibility," Poirot whispered, "but not yet the truth." Weber interrupted with a new find, a bloody glove monogrammed AM in Professor Meyer's hotel room. Meyer, outraged, claimed it was planted. "I've never owned such a thing," he protested. "Vogel's allies are framing me." The glove, too convenient, smelled of a red herring, but Poirot pocketed it for analysis. Climbing to the bell chamber, Poirot found a discarded cigarette butt near the spire's base, its brand matching Brunner's preferred Gauloise. Brunner, when questioned, shrugged. "I smoked outside after the tour before my tavern meeting, tossed it in the street, yet the butt was inside the tower, not outside. A careless mistake, or another plant?" Poirot returned to the mechanism room, focusing on the pendulum's irregularity. He consulted a blueprint from the archive, noting the clock's leap-year reset mechanism, a complex system of wires and pulleys. "If one knew the tower," he said to Weber, "one could halt the pendulum remotely, perhaps from the stair tower." Weber scoffed, but Poirot's mind raced. The blonde hair, the footprint, the oil, clues or distractions? A new discovery. A maid at the hotel reported seeing Lang near the tower at midnight, despite his claim of patrolling the grounds. "He was carrying a satchel," she said, "and looked agitated." Lang, confronted, growled, "Checking the gates as always. The maid's mistaken." Poirot then examined the cryptic note from Vogel's pocket. "Forgive me, but the shadows of the past demand payment." Comparing it to Vogel's ledger, he noticed a slight tremor. Tower's rhythm. As evening fell, the suspects gathered at the hotel, their glances sharp with distrust. Helena whispered to Sophie, who avoided her aunt's gaze. Brunner argued with Meyer, their voices low but heated. Lang polished a brass fitting, his eyes darting to Poirot. Duval sipped wine, her composure a fragile mask. Outside, the Zytglogge chimed 6, its notes distorted by the fog. Poirot stood beneath the arch, gazing at the tower's spire. "The clues, they align," he murmured, "but the shadows, they shift. We are close, mes amis, but not yet there." Chapter 5. Complications and Twists. The evening of October 17th, 1925, cast a pall over Bern, the fog thickening until the Zytglogge's spire was a mere shadow above the old city. Its chimes, striking 7, carried a mournful note, as if the tower itself sensed the weight of Dr. Elias Vogel's murder. Hercule Poirot, his patent leather shoes silent on the Kramgasser's cobbles, returned to the Hotel Bellevue Palace, his mind a whirl of gears as intricate as the Zytglogge's mechanism. The locked room, the dagger, the cryptic note about shadows of the past, and the clues, blonde hair, smudged footprint, foreign oil, pointed to a puzzle far from solved. Inspector Lucas Weber, though skeptical, relied on Poirot's insight, and the suspects, Helena Vogel, Karl Brunner, Sophie Leclerc, Professor Anton Meyer, Fritz Lang, and Madame Yvette Duval, grew restless under scrutiny. Poirot's investigation had uncovered motives and cracks in alibis, but new complications arose like mist from the Ara. In the hotel's opulent lounge, where gas lamps cast golden pools on velvet upholstery, Helena Vogel approached Poirot, her auburn hair pinned tightly, her eyes glinting with desperation. "Monsieur Poirot," she whispered, glancing at the others across the room, "I must confess something. Elias and I, our marriage was a facade. I've been close with Karl Brunner for months. Elias knew, threatened to divorce me, leave me I don't know. Everyone," she whispered. "This tower, it's cursed. The stakes rose when Professor Meyer, his spectacles fogged with indignation, cornered Poirot in the hotel corridor. "I've been slandered," he hissed. "That letter accusing Vogel of plagiarism. I wrote it, yes, but it was a bluff, a fit of anger. I lost a grant to him last year, and I wanted to scare him. I didn't kill him." His admission, while clearing one red herring, painted him as impulsive, capable of more than threats. Fritz Lang's story shifted under pressure. A hotel porter reported seeing him arguing with Vogel near the tower's gateway hours before the murder, not after the tour as Lang claimed. Confronted, Lang's weathered face darkened. "It was about my wages," he growled. "Vogel docked them again, called me lazy. I left him alive, I swear." His satchel, seen by the maid, remained unexplained, and Poirot noted his growing agitation. Madame Duval's secret deepened the intrigue. In a private moment at the hotel's tea room, she confessed to Poirot, her pearl necklace clutched tightly. "Elias wasn't just blackmailing me over a forged painting," she said. "He had evidence of my wartime activities. Letters proving I passed information to the Allies. Exposure would ruin me, even now." Her motive, preserving her reputation, gained weight, but her alibi, parting with Sophie early, held a gap. The investigation took a sinister turn that evening. Poirot, retiring to his suite, sipped a hot chocolate delivered by room service. A bitter undertone made him pause. "Mon Dieu!" he gasped, setting the cup down. A quick test with a pocket reagent confirmed his fear. Arsenic. The dose was small, non-lethal, but a clear warning. "The killer," Poirot murmured, "fears my little gray cells." He informed Weber, who sealed the hotel kitchen and questioned staff, but the trail was cold. No one saw the poisoner. Weber, frustrated, shared a new discovery. A jeweler's receipt in Vogel's study.
A twist emerged. A groundskeeper reported a ladder propped against the tower's spire base the night of the murder, removed by morning. Lang, responsible for grounds maintenance, claimed ignorance. "Ladders move," he muttered. "Kids, vandals, who knows?" But the spire's ledge, near the sealed attic, suggested another entry, if one could bypass the rusted bolts. Poirot re-examined the blonde hair from the crime scene. Comparing it to a strand from Duval's shawl, he found a mismatch. Too coarse, possibly from a wig. "A disguise?" he mused. The footprint, size 10, ruled out Vogel and the women, but fit Brunner, Meyer, or Lang. The cigarette butt, Brunner's brand, remained a nagging inconsistency, found inside, not outside as he claimed. A final revelation came from the hotel's night clerk, who overheard a hushed conversation between Helena and Brunner after the tour. She said, "Elias knows we must act," the clerk recalled. Brunner told her to stay calm. An affair, a will, and now a conspiracy. Poirot's mind ticked faster. Gathering the suspects in the archive room, Poirot tested a theory. "The moon phase dial," he said, adjusting it to the crescent of October 16th. A faint click sounded, but no compartment opened. Instead, a gear shifted, revealing a tiny notch etched with a symbol, a crescent moon. "The shadows of the past," Poirot said. "They point to the Pathandianen, prisoners of this tower. Something was hidden, taken, or left." Weber, exasperated, arrested Brunner on circumstantial evidence. The cigarette, the letter, the overheard plot. He had means, motive, opportunity, Weber insisted. Poirot shook his head. "No, Inspector. The locked door, the moon's shadow, they hold the key. We are close, but the rhythm is not yet perfect." As night fell, the Zytglogge chimed 8, its notes warped by the fog. The suspects, confined to the hotel, whispered accusations. Poirot stood by the Ara, the river's murmur echoing his thoughts. "The truth," he murmured. "It ticks in time, but the shadows, they dance." Chapter 6. The Revelation. The evening before the fireplace, its flames reflecting in his polished shoes. "Mes amis," he began, his voice soft yet commanding. "We stand at the heart of a puzzle most intricate. Dr. Elias Vogel, stabbed in a locked room, the key on his person, the door unbreached. A note speaks of shadows of the past, a pendulum swings awry, and clues, blonde hair, a footprint, a hidden panel, point to an impossible crime. Yet there is no such thing as impossible. The truth, it ticks like the Zytglogge, precise and inevitable." He paced, hands clasped behind his back. "Let us reconstruct. The night of October 16th, after the gala, Dr. Vogel lingered in the mechanism room to adjust the pendulum. The door was locked, the stair tower guarded, the gateway secured. Yet he was murdered, and the killer vanished. How? And why?" Helena Vogel, her auburn hair tightly pinned, gripped her handkerchief. Brunner, his ruddy face flushed, shifted uncomfortably. Sophie clutched her locket, her eyes wide. Meyer adjusted his spectacles, his scowl defiant. Lang, his weathered hands clenched, stared at the floor. Duval, her pearl necklace glinting, maintained her enigmatic calm. Poirot turned to Weber. "Inspector, you arrested Monsieur Brunner, citing his cigarette, his letter, his overheard words with Madame Vogel. But the little grey cells, they protest. Let us examine the clues anew." He held up the blonde hair found in the mechanism room. "This hair, coarse, not natural, likely from a wig. Madame Duval, you are blonde, but this does not match. Nor does it belong to Madame Vogel or Mademoiselle Leclerc." He paused, eyeing Lang. "But a wig, it is a tool of disguise. Next, the footprint, size 10, near the great bell. It fits Monsieur Brunner, Monsieur Meyer, or Monsieur Lang. But the oil on the loose gear, foreign to the clock's lubricant, suggests a deliberate act, not a careless step." He produced the cryptic note. "Forgive me, but the shadows of the past demand payment." The handwriting. "Exposure. You could not allow this." The group gasped. Weber's eyes narrowed. "Proof, Poirot." "Oui, Inspector." "The method. Lang, you know the Zytglogge as your own shadow. The hidden panel behind the astrolabe leading to the attic crawl space was sealed, but you unsealed it, loosening the bolts days prior. You entered the mechanism room after the tour, through the crawl space, while Vogel adjusted the pendulum. You stabbed him with his own dagger, taken from his collection earlier. You locked the door from within, using his key, then exited via the crawl space, resealing it imperfectly, hence the disturbed dust I found." Lang's hands shook. "Impossible! The stair tower was guarded!" "The guards saw you on the grounds," Poirot countered, "but not in the stair tower. You climbed the ladder to the spire, accessed the attic, and descended to the mechanism room. The ladder, seen by the groundskeeper, you removed by dawn." "The note?" Helena whispered. "Forged by Lang," Poirot said, "to suggest suicide or betrayal, mimicking Vogel's hand from archive documents you handled daily. The shadows of the past, a clever touch, hinting at the Pfaffendirnen to mislead us." He turned to the moon dial. "The dial, set wrongly, was your error. You adjusted it to access the hidden compartment, perhaps to retrieve an artifact Vogel had found. But blood from the murder jammed a gear, causing the irregular chime at midnight. I heard it from the hotel." "The blonde hair?" Sophie asked. "A wig borrowed from your wife, Monsieur Lang," Poirot said. You wore it to disguise yourself, passing through the Kramgasse unnoticed. The hair caught on a splinter as you exited. Lang's face drained of color. You've no proof! Poirot produced the loose gear. This, smeared with oil from your toolkit, not the clocks. And the footprint, size 10, matches your boots, found in your shed with traces of the same oil. The cigarette, planted to implicate Brunner. The glove in Maya's room, another of your distractions. Duval's voice was sharp. The poison in your chocolate? A desperate act, Poirot said, when you saw my justice. While Duval's gaze remained inscrutable. Poirot turned to Weber. The tower's secrets, Inspector, they are many, but the truth, it always chimes in time. The Zytglogge struck 10. Its notes clear now, as if the murder's weight had lifted. The suspects dispersed, their futures uncertain, but the puzzle solved. Poirot adjusted his bow tie, his mustache curling slightly. The little grey cells, he murmured. They never fail. Chapter 7. Justice Served. The night of October 18th, 1925, draped Bern in a fog so dense it seemed to swallow the Zytglogge's spire, leaving only the tower's golden chimes to pierce the silence. The great bell tolled 11, its notes resonating through the old city's arcades with a clarity that signaled the restoration of order, as if the mechanism room's gears, freed from the stain of Dr. Elias Vogel's blood, ticked in harmony once more. In the Hotel Bellevue Palace's grand lounge, where velvet drapes framed windows overlooking the misty Ara River, the air was heavy with relief and lingering unease. Hercule Poirot, his compact frame impeccable in a tailored suit, stood by a roaring fireplace, his green eyes reflecting the flames as he addressed the remaining symposium guests. Helena Vogel, Karl Brunner, Sophie Leclerc, Professor Anton Meyer, and Madame Yvette Duval. Inspector Lucas Weber, his walrus mustache bristling with satisfaction, oversaw the aftermath of Fritz Lang's arrest, while a constable stood guard at the door. Poirot's voice, soft yet resonant, filled the room. Mes amis, the puzzle of the Zytglogge is solved. Monsieur Lang, the caretaker, murdered Dr. Vogel, driven by greed and fear of exposure. His method, the hidden crawlspace, the forged note, the tempered pendulum, was ingenious, but no match for the little grey cells. Justice, it now takes its course. Lang, handcuffed and sullen, had been taken to Bern's police station hours earlier, his confession spilling like oil from a broken gear. Vogel was a tyrant, he had growled as Weber's men led him away, hoarding the tower's treasures while docking my wages. I sold a few chime. The hidden panel, the moon dial's secret, they spoke louder than his lies. Weber, leaning against the doorframe, nodded grudgingly. You've done well, Poirot. Swiss law will handle Lang now. He'll face trial for murder and theft. Poirot's mustache twitched. Justice, Inspector, is not merely law. It is balance restored. But let us tie the loose ends, no? He turned to the group, addressing each in turn. Helena's affair with Brunner, confessed the previous day, had clouded her alibi, but her timeline held. She was in her suite during the murder. Madame Vogel, Poirot said gently, your heart strayed, but your hands are clean. The will, however, leaves you with modest means, as Dr. Vogel intended. Helena nodded, her expression resigned. I'll return to Vienna. A quieter life, perhaps. Sophie Leclerc, clutching her locket, met Poirot's gaze. Mademoiselle, he said, your inheritance of the watchmaking firm is secure, as your uncle wished. Your argument with him was no motive for murder, only a moment of youth. Sophie's eyes brimmed with tears, but she smiled faintly, relieved. Karl Brunner, his ruddy face less flushed, cleared his throat. I'm no saint, Poirot. Vogel owed me money, and yes, I was
close with Helena. But I was at the tavern, as I said. The barkeep's testimony, checked by Weber, confirmed his alibi, despite the planted cigarette. Monsieur Brunner, Poirot said, your temper is your own punishment. But you are free. Professor Meyer, his spectacles glinting, muttered, I despised Vogel for stealing my work, but I'd never stoop to murder. His forged letter, a bluff born of envy, was no crime. Poirot nodded. Monsieur Meyer, your pride is bruised, but your innocence is clear. Madame Duval, her pearl necklace catching the firelight, spoke softly. My past with Elias, those wartime letters, haunted me. But I did not kill. Her alibi, walking with Sophie until 9:30, held, and the blackmail payments were irrelevant to the murder. Madame, Poirot said, your secret
Rose, offering Poirot a small bow. Thank you, monsieur. Elias can rest now. Sophie approached, a locket in hand. Uncle Elias loved this tower. I'll ensure his firm honors his legacy. Brunner and Meyer exchanged uneasy glances, their rivalries subdued. Duval slipped away quietly, her enigma intact. The lounge emptied, leaving Poirot and Weber by the fire. You've a knack, Poirot, Weber admitted, pouring brandy from a decanter. Switzerland's precision meets Belgian cunning. Poirot sipped, his moustache curling. The Zytglogge, Inspector. It is like the mind, complex, yet orderly when understood. This case, it was a matter of listening to its rhythm. Outside, the fog began to lift, revealing the tower's spire under a crescent moon. The great bell struck midnight, its chimes clear and true, as if the Zytglogge itself approved of the resolution. Poirot adjusted his bow tie, his thoughts turning to departure. Bern is beautiful, he murmured, but the little grey cells, they crave a new challenge. The next morning, as Weber finalized Lang's charges, Poirot prepared to leave the Bellevue Palace. Sophie, now poised to lead the watchmaking firm, gifted him a small pocket watch, engraved with a miniature Zytglogge. A token, monsieur, she said, for bringing light to our shadows. Poirot bowed. Mademoiselle, it is the duty of Hercule Poirot to restore order. Adieu. As he stepped into the Kramgasse, the Zytglogge chimed 1, its notes echoing through the clearing fog. The city stirred, shops opening, life resuming. Poirot, suitcase in hand, glanced back at the tower. The truth, he whispered, it always chimes in time. Chapter 8. Reflections and Farewells. The morning of October 19th, 1925, dawned crisp and clear over Bern, the fog that had cloaked the old city for days finally parting to reveal a sky of alpine blue. The Zytglogge Tower, its sandstone glowing in the sunlight, stood proud, its great bell chiming 10 with a resonance that seemed to celebrate the restoration.
Rare smile. Monsieur Poirot, he said, offering a glass of brandy from the hotel's bar. You've done Bern a service. Lang's confession is ironclad. Trial's set for next month. He'll answer for murder and theft. Weber's tone carried grudging respect, a far cry from his initial skepticism. Poirot sipped the brandy, its warmth a contrast to the cool morning. Inspector, the little grey cells, they thrive on order. Switzerland's precision, it is a fine canvas for deduction. But the human heart, c'est compliqué. Weber chuckled. You've a way with words, Poirot. What now? Back to London? Oui, perhaps, Poirot replied, his moustache curling slightly. But first, let us reflect. The case, it leaves echoes, no? The echoes began with Helena Vogel, who approached Poirot in the lobby, her auburn hair now loose, her face softened by grief but resolute. "Monsieur Poirot," she said, her voice steady, "I owe you my thanks. Elias's death, it was a shock, but your clarity has given me peace. I'm returning to Vienna to rebuild. The estate, it's modest, but enough." She paused, her eyes searching his. "Did I fail him, monsieur?" Poirot's tone was gentle. "Madame, love is a mechanism that falters, but you did not wield the dagger. Live well for his memory." Helena nodded, a tear escaping, and departed for her train, her silhouette fading into the bustling Kramgasse. Sophie Leclerc, the young heiress to Vogel's watchmaking firm, found Poirot in the hotel's tea room, where he savoured a final café au lait. Her dark curls framed a face now bright with purpose, her locket gleaming with its inscription. "To my dear niece, your future is timed." "Monsieur Poirot," she said, "I'm taking over the firm. Uncle Elias believed in me, and I'll honour that. I've commissioned a new clock design, inspired by the Zytglogge, to keep his ordeal."
"I misjudged Vogel," he admitted. "My letter was petty, not deadly. I'll return to Zurich, focus on my work, not grudges." Poirot nodded, sensing Meyer's lesson learned. Madame Yvette Duval, ever enigmatic, met Poirot on the hotel terrace, her pearl necklace catching the morning sun. "Monsieur," she said softly, "my secrets remain buried, thanks to you. Elias's blackmail was a shadow, but it's lifted." Her wartime past, tied to forged paintings and espionage, would stay silent, and Poirot respected her privacy. "Madame," he said, "the past, it is a locked room. You are free to leave it behind." As the group dispersed, Poirot strolled to the Zytglogge, drawn to its ancient presence. The Kramgasse buzzed with life, vendors hawking chestnuts, children darting through the arcade, but the tower stood serene, its astronomical clock ticking with eternal precision. Poirot climbed the stair tower one last time, alone, to the mechanism room. The bloodstains were gone, the gears polished, the pendulum swinging true. The hidden panel behind the astrolabe, now sealed properly, held no more secrets. The great bell above gleamed, its Latin inscriptions a testament to time's endurance. "The Pfaffendirnen," Poirot mused, recalling the prisoners once held here, their shadows woven into Lang's deception. The moon phase dial, reset to the crescent, gleamed softly. "The tower, it keeps its counsel, but it speaks to those who listen." Back at the hotel, Weber shared final details. The stolen Pfaffendirnen gear, recovered from a Zurich dealer, would return to the tower's archive. Lang's trial would reveal the extent of his artifact smuggling, a scandal that would ripple through Bern's academic circles. "You've left us a cleaner city, Poirot," Weber said, tipping his hat. Poirot boarded his train that afternoon, the pocket watch from Sophie ticking in his vest. As the locomotive chugged out of Bern, the Zytglogge's chimes faded into the distance, a farewell as clear as the alpine air. Poirot leaned back, his Persian rug, his bow tie perfectly aligned, and his mustache waxed to precision, curled with quiet satisfaction. The air carried the faint scent of lavender polish, a testament to his fastidious nature. On the desk lay a small parcel, postmarked from Bern, Switzerland, its contents stirring memories of the Zytglogge Tower and the murder that had drawn him into its ancient gears. Poirot sipped his tisane, his green eyes reflective as he unwrapped the parcel.
Inside was a letter and a velvet box, the latter containing the pocket watch gifted by Sophie Leclerc, its face etched with a miniature Zytglogge, its ticks as steady as the tower's great bell. The letter, written in Sophie's neat hand, read, "Monsieur Poirot, Bern thrives, and the firm prospers under my care. This watch, a prototype of our new design, is a small thanks for your brilliance. The Zytglogge chimes for you. Yours, Sophie Leclerc." Poirot smiled, setting the watch beside a photograph of Captain Arthur Hastings, his absent friend during the Bern affair. "Mon ami," he murmured, "you would have marveled at the tower's secrets. The case of Dr. Elias Vogel's murder, stabbed in a locked mechanism room, the key on his person, a cryptic note about shadows of the past, had been a puzzle of rare complexity. Fritz Lang's confession, exposing his artifact smuggling and desperate act, had restored order, but the echoes of Bern lingered in Poirot's meticulous mind. The Zytglogge, with its sandstone facade and astronomical clock, had been more than a backdrop. Its history, once a gatehouse, a prison for the Pfaffendirnen, a keeper of time, had woven itself into the crime. Lang's use of the hidden crawlspace, the forged note, the tampered moon dial, and the blonde wig had crafted an illusion of impossibility. But Poirot's little gray cells had aligned the gears of truth. The pocket watch ticked softly, a reminder of the tower's rhythm, now free of blood. Poirot's thoughts drifted to the suspects, their lives reshaped by the case. Sophie Leclerc, now leading Vogel's watchmaking firm, had sent reports of success. Her latest design,
In the wake of justice. "A man of action," Poirot said, "redeemed by purpose." Professor Anton Meyer, the rival academic, had retreated to Zurich, his pride humbled. A recent article in a horological journal, found by Poirot in his morning reading, credited Meyer with a new study on medieval clocks, dedicated to Vogel's memory. "Envy turned to respect," Poirot noted, "a fitting end." Madame Yvette Duval, the enigmatic expatriate, had vanished into Paris, her wartime secrets safe. A postcard, unsigned but bearing her elegant script, had arrived weeks earlier. "The shadows are silent, thanks to you." Poirot, respecting her mystery, had filed it away, her pearl necklace a fleeting image in his mind. Inspector Lucas Weber, Bern's stalwart policeman, had sent a formal letter of thanks, his walrus moustache almost visible in his stiff prose. "Monsieur Poirot, your methods, though unorthodox, served Bern well. Lang's trial proceeds. Justice is assured. The smuggled Pfaffendirnen gear, recovered from a Zurich dealer, now rested in the Zytglogge's archive, a relic of the tower's shadowed past." Poirot rose, pacing his flat, the pocket watch in hand. The case had tested his method, order, logic, the observation of human nature. The blonde hair, a wig's coarse strand, the footprint, smeared with foreign oil, the moon dial, hiding a compartment, the forged note, mimicking Vogel's hand, all had pointed to Lang's desperation. The poisoned chocolate, a final act to thwart Poirot, had only sharpened his resolve. "The Zytglogge," he murmured. "It spoke, and I listened." He paused by the window, gazing at London's bustle. The case had been a symphony of precision, like the tower's gears, each clue a note in the melody of truth. The Pfaffendirnen legend, woven into Lang's deception, had added a poetic layer, tying the crime to Bern's history. Poirot's mind, ever restless, replayed the moment of revelation. The suspects gathered in the hotel lounge, Lang's defiance crumbling under the weight of London's clock struck 6, their bells a distant echo of Bern's. Poirot closed his notebook, his moustache curling with contentment. The Zytglogge case was closed, but the world with its endless puzzles awaited. "The little grey cells," he whispered. "They are ready." He placed the pocket watch on his desk, its miniature tower gleaming. Tomorrow, he would write to Sophie, commending her work. Tonight, he would savor the calm, the order restored. The Zytglogge, far across the Alps, ticked on, its secret safe, its story complete. The summer of 1926 bathed London in a golden haze, the Thames sparkling under a sun that softened the city's sharp edges. At Whitehaven Mansions, Hercule Poirot's elegant flat was a haven of order, its polished surfaces reflecting his meticulous nature. The scent of lavender polish mingled with the aroma of freshly brewed tisane, and sunlight streamed through lace curtains, illuminating a small desk where a pocket watch lay, a gift from Sophie Leclerc, its face etched with a miniature Zytglogge, ticking with Swiss precision. Poirot, his patent leather shoes gleaming, his bow tie perfectly aligned, sat by the window, his green eyes distant as he gazed at London's bustling streets. The Bern case, with its locked room murder and tangled motives, lingered in his mind like the echo of the Zytglogge's great bell. The watch, a memento of Dr. Elias Vogel's murder, was more than a keepsake. Its steady rhythm recalled the ancient tower in Bern, its sandstone facade an astronomical clock, a stage for a crime that had tested Poirot's little grey cells. Fritz Lang's confession, driven by greed and fear of exposure for smuggling the tower's artifacts, had unraveled the mystery of the stabbed horologist, the forged note about shadows of the past, and the tampered moon dial. The case, solved in October 1925, had left its mark, and Poirot, ever reflective, turned to a letter that had arrived that morning, postmarked from Bern. The letter was from Sophie Leclerc, now firmly at the helm of Vogel's watchmaking firm. "Monsieur Poirot," she wrote, "our new Zytglogge-inspired clock has one modest inheritance enough for a modest life." Poirot nodded, satisfied that she had found peace. Karl Brunner, the gruff watchmaker, had proven a steady partner to Sophie, his temper cooled by responsibility. A recent article in the Times, clipped by Poirot's diligent landlady, Miss Lemon, noted Brunner's innovations in chronometer design, crediting his collaboration with the firm. "A man redeemed," Poirot mused, "by work, not wealth." Professor Anton Meyer, the envious academic, had softened his rhetoric. A Zurich journal, arriving in Poirot's Morning Post, featured Meyer's latest paper on medieval clock mechanisms, dedicated to Vogel. "A gesture of atonement," Poirot said, recalling Meyer's forged letter, a red herring born of spite but not blood. Madame Yvette Duval, the enigmatic expatriate, remained a shadow. A brief note, unsigned but in her elegant hand, had reached Poirot months earlier. "Paris is kind, and my past sleeps. Merci." Her wartime secrets, tied to forged paintings and espionage, were safe, and Poirot, respecting her privacy, had burned the note, her pearl necklace a fleeting memory. Inspector Lucas Weber, Bern's stalwart policeman, had wired a final update. Fritz Lang's trial had concluded with a life sentence for murder and theft. The Pfaffendirnen gear, stolen from the Zytglogge's hidden compartment, was restored to the tower's archive, its history as a prison relic preserved. "Bern is quieter for your work," Weber wrote, a rare warmth in his formal tone. Poirot rose, pacing his flat, the pocket watch in hand. The case had been a symphony of clues: the blonde wig hair, the oiled gear, the size 10 footprint, the tampered pendulum, the moon dial's secret notch. Lang's attempt to poison Poirot's chocolate, a desperate bid to halt the investigation, had only sharpened his resolve.
The Zytglogge's history, its days as a gatehouse, a prison for the Pfaffendirnen, a guardian of time, had woven itself into the crime. The moon's shadow, a poetic misdirection.
Time, he said. It is the great revealer. It heals, it punishes, it endures. The Bern case, with its interplay of greed, loyalty, and redemption, was a chapter closed, but the world's puzzles awaited. He wrote to Sophie, commending her clock's success, and promising a visit to Bern should his travels allow. The Zytglogge, he penned, is a friend to truth. Sealing the letter, he placed the pocket watch in a glass case, its miniature tower gleaming beside a silver cigarette box, another relic of a solved mystery. London's clocks struck 9, their chimes a faint echo of Bern's. Poirot lit a lamp, its glow warming the room. The Zytglogge case had been a dance of logic and intuition, its resolution a testament to order. He leaned back, his mustache curling with contentment. "The little gray cells," he whispered. "They tick on, ready for the next mystery." Outside, the Thames flowed, steady as the watch's rhythm. Poirot closed his notebook, his mind at rest. The Zytglogge, far across the Alps, continued its eternal vigil, its chimes a reminder that time, like truth, never falters.